Welcome to the Ed3 Podcast, where you're the reoccurring guest, whether you're in the classroom or shaping education behind the scenes. I'm Tisha Poncio.
And I'm Rick Butterworth. Together, we bring stories, insights, and conversations that matter to educators, learners, and change makers. Our goal is to bring everyone together to learn, grow, and play.
Welcome to the podcast, Rick.
Welcome. You don't give me any warning whatsoever, do you? And at the same time, I'm pretty sure that the actual starting point of these episodes is for me to actually start it off, and you just go straight in.
I just wanted to say it one time.
You just wanted to get the first episode in and actually say it. Okay. I get that. I can understand that. I can relate. So how are you? This is obviously our very, very first episode of the podcast. And
I'm good.
Yeah.
I am excited to be doing this podcast after we have done so much work on the book, and the book is coming out soon. So I'm excited to do this project with you. It'll be a little bit more fun, less hard timelines, less editing, maybe, hopefully. I mean,
well, that'll be my job anyway. But I think the biggest thing really though is why the hell are we doing this podcast?
So basically, who are we and why are we here?
Well, I think the biggest thing is there's so many podcasts actually out there. There's some amazing podcasts. Why have we decided in 2025, when you've got everything like AI and emerging technologies and everything else, do we decide to go and create a podcast?
I think because there's so much to talk about and there's never enough time to talk about it. And I think the reason that we are here is because we're kind of answering this backwards, but we're here because we want to bring people together to have a conversation. And I believe that often there's not enough room, or people do not allow enough room to have conversations around topics. A lot of times these emerging technologies topics, they seem very cut and dry, if you will. And I've seen over the course of years that I've been in education, with every new technological advancement, there are so many strong opinions either way. And the thing about it is, some people don't want to talk about it. They're avoiding it. Some people do want to talk about it, and they're open to listening to other people talk about it. And then some people are talking about it and they think that everything they're saying is right. Yeah. So I think that if we all come together, all of those different perspectives, we can create a conversation that empowers all of us to reflect on where we are, what we know, and how we can be part of the solution to the things that are changing. And I think that's really what this podcast is about. And what do you think about why we're here?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because you pulled up some very good points with regards to AI and everything, and people thinking that they know everything about it. And I'm going to hold my hands up straight away and say I am nowhere near an expert. There are far more knowledgeable people than myself, but there's so many voices, and there's only certain ones that are being picked up so frequently, but there are amazing stories, there are amazing points that are from people that don't have the audience like everybody else. And to me, that is so important, that they actually have a place where they can communicate their ideas, their experiences, what they have created or brought into the classroom, so that others can learn. And that's the biggest thing. We're talking in education. We're all here to learn and grow and be better. And why not bring all these different people together to actually share their knowledge and experience so that other people can grow and be better. We're here to actually expand the next generation's minds, but at the same time, we're expanding our own minds.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's for us, this podcast is about being authentic and fun, and it's in the name, play. We want to play. We want to have a fun, enjoyable time and learn about these things. And that's what we want for everyone that listens to this podcast, is to hopefully go away with something that they can either introduce into their school, into their classroom, even into their community or their employment. We want to just give back, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said something that was really important, and I think that's what we want. Part of our intro really acknowledges that everybody listening is the reoccurring guest. You know, we're going to have guests on our podcast. We've already recorded a couple of podcasts with guests you'll hear from soon. But I think you, the listener, are the recurring guest, and you have thoughts as you're listening, and you may be talking to us as you're listening to our conversation. And you may not have a platform, or even maybe not even using social media as your platform. You know, these days I see a lot of things on social media, and I can see why it's a scary place for people to post their thoughts and their opinions and their ideas, because, you know, there's a lot of opinions out there about a lot of things. And we want to create a space where you can listen and you can ponder and you can be curious, but you can also be playful. So you'll see a side, I think, of Rick and I both that you've maybe not seen before. You've maybe seen us in professional settings where we were talking about one particular tool or topic. You maybe see us talking just about the book, where we are focused on the content of the book that we've researched, the strategies that we believe in. But this space is a space for us to be playful and really open to ideas and questions and being curious. And I don't think that we're doing that enough in any of our spaces, whether it's in school or it's in a business or it's even personally. And so we want you to be here with us to grow personally and professionally, to learn personally and professionally, and to also learn how to be more playful, which is something Rick and I talk about all the time, about being playful and identifying more with who you were as an 8-year-old, right? Like, go back to that version of yourself. How did you have fun? How did you have fun, Rick, at 8 years old?
Oh, it was always, well, I mean, you didn't have computers that were able to connect with your friends online and all these different things. Now, not to say I wasn't playing PlayStation. I mean, when I was 8 years old, it was PlayStation. The very first PlayStation was my one, but we'd still be going out. We'd be playing soccer, as you'd say, Tish, football for my, in the park, just getting out and exercising and having fun with friends and stuff. And that's the great thing with this, is we want to be raw and authentic with it. We're learning as we're going as well. So there's going to be times where we're going to make mistakes. It's going to just be, maybe sometimes it's going to absolutely sound like chaos.
Yes.
Because we also know that I'm very structured in the way I like to do things. Tish is the complete opposite of myself. And you'd probably say that's a recipe for disaster, but we blend so well with the way that we do things. And that's how we're going to be with this actual podcast itself, is just have some fun with it and be wacky, be spontaneous, challenge whatever we see fit. And there may be times that you may be listening to this and going, what are they talking about?
Yeah, we're going to talk about all kinds of things. And I think sometimes it will be a stream of conscious. I kind of have some questions for Rick that I didn't even prep him for.
You've already thrown us off, haven't you? You're just
I have.
Straight away. Okay.
But I do have this one. This one is something that we planned for. For the people who are listening, who literally do not know who we are and have never heard of us. I think that we should give a little bit of a backstory on who we are and how we got here. So I'm going to let you kind of do a really brief, you know, 1 minute,
Very,
30
very,
second.
very, very quickly. Yeah, very
Yeah,
quickly.
we'll each do a little backstory so
Yeah.
you'll know who we are, how we got here, and what we're doing. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the process of the book. And then we'll talk about just education, how it's being shaped now, some things with that. And then we have something called a retro rewind that we're doing with our guests, which is basically a quick fire of questions. But my quick fire of questions for Rick is going to be a little bit different. So that's where that's going to come into play.
Oh.
Get it? But play. Okay, Rick, who are you?
Who am I? Who am I? Well, you've known me long enough, Tish. So I got into the education space through a platform called Wakelet. I was one of the founding members of the company, actually, and was working on development, design, operations. I mean, I did every single job under the sun at that company, including cleaning toilets. Anything to get the company going in the direction that we wanted it to. Now, my background when I was in school, I'm dyslexic. I was diagnosed when I was 8 years old, and I always saw it as a challenge. I always thought that I couldn't do the things that everybody else was doing. But the one thing I discovered was I had a knack and a passion for problem solving. And that's what got me into web design and coding. I'm all self-taught in that area. I didn't do a degree in coding or computer science or anything. I did aviation technology with pilot studies. I wanted to be a commercial pilot, graduated, got my private pilot's license, and then did a complete U-turn, changing everything to go and do coding. And when I got into the education space with Wakelet, I started to notice how many other people had the exact same challenges that I had. And it was from there that I realized that I don't want any other person to go through exactly the same struggles that I did. So I'm going to help spread my experience, my knowledge to others to help strengthen them for their futures. And I then came across Tish through Wakelet, and everything just blew up, really. Book, podcast. I don't know what else is on the horizon next, but yeah, that is my 1 minute 30 pitch, which probably went on for longer than that.
I think you
But
did a great job, actually.
Thank you.
That might have been the shortest intro you've ever given.
I think it probably was. I've practiced enough times now. But Tish, let's hear from your side now. We're going to throw it back to you because obviously you're a lot more well known than I am in the education space for obvious reasons, which I'm sure you'll go into. But for those that are not familiar with you, who are you?
Well, I'm just a small town girl. No, I'm just kidding.
Living in a lonely world.
I knew somebody's going to be singing that song all day now. No, I really am a small town girl. I really did grow up in a very small town. And really, as a learner, did not know who I was, if that makes sense. And I think that's something, I'm going to talk about that. We're going to talk about it. It's so important for students to know who they are and how they learn. I didn't. I felt like I was a learner who was really unconscious, more unconscious than probably Rick. He was very knowledgeable about the struggles he was having in school, and I wasn't. I just knew I was struggling, and in order to counteract that struggle, I signed up to be in every single extracurricular activity that I could be in. And so I was in choir, and I was a cheerleader, and I ran track one year, and I played softball, and I did all kinds of activities, and I was always active. And that should have given me my very first clue on what was happening in my brain, because I always needed to be doing something all the time. Being just diagnosed with ADHD in the last year, so less than a year, I now know, looking back, that my struggle was ADHD. But nobody knew. Nobody caught on. Nobody saw it. I think what that did for me, aside from being adopted, it really highlighted for me that I was different. And in school, the way school is structured, it's not okay to be different. You don't want to be different because being different calls you out silently all the time. And so being different is something that I think I've struggled with my entire life. It's not new. It's something that I personally develop all the time. But I think for me, during those early years, I had a couple of teachers, and one teacher in particular who maybe didn't know that I had ADHD, but knew that I had something really special. And she is someone that I dedicated the book to. And she did something that I think a lot of teachers forget that they're doing. She just gave me time, and she gave me space, and she gave me some recognition to own my own voice. And it was through that interaction that I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. So I did what any high school senior would do. I went to college knowing that I wanted to be a teacher, but still not quite sure about this whole college thing because I was still struggling. I was still struggling in college. And that is something that I talk a lot about. People assume that everything has been very easy for me, but I struggled in college. I actually had to take a remedial math class in college. And it was like, it was so shameful that I didn't want to talk about it with anybody. I can't believe I'm saying it now publicly on a podcast, but I was in this remedial math class and not knowing again that it was my ADHD that was causing the struggle. But I kept pressing on. And then I went into my undergrad final years of study. And unlike Rick, I did get a coding degree. So some of you know that. And that is one of our beginning ties. Rick and I do have coding brains. That's how we think. If this, then what? It's
Yep.
very logical. I'm glad that I took those courses. I did not even realize the impact of those courses, Rick, because I was the only female and the only female of color in those classes with a sea of male young men who wanted to be the next Bill Gates. And I was lucky enough to have a female professor named Dr. Lynn Mason, who let me go in her office every single day or week to figure out coding. And again, my ADHD brain did not love that process right away, but once I figured it out, I loved it. And then I became a teacher. I became a teacher because a teacher took care of me. That's really the simple thing. So how did we end up in front of you here? Well, I taught for 22 years. In the 22 years, I was also a digital learning coach and instructional technology coach, where I was helping teachers integrate technology into all of their lessons, K through 12. I've also taught at the college level. I've taught adult learning. And the last couple of years in my classroom, my students discovered a tool called Wakelet. And a lot of people know the story, but I didn't believe Wakelet was going to help my students. So I wasn't really faithful, and I kind of took on that egotistical veteran teacher approach and thought I knew everything. And I didn't know everything, and they showed me that very gracefully. And so those last 4 years in the classroom, I had this incredible time with the students. We built this company-like environment where we had departments and everybody had a role, and they were collaborating and creating, and they were ideating, and they were challenging each other, and they were like giving each other feedback and then doing personal reflections. And I saw this massive amount of growth that I had never seen as an educator, but also not even as a learner. They're the reason I got my master's degree. They're the reason that Rick and I have written this book, truly. And we do credit them in the book.
Yeah.
But the book is based on that experience that I had with students in the classroom. And Rick and I came together with our love for Web3 and emerging technologies and crypto and AI and all of the things that everybody's excited about now. We were talking about it in like 2021, right?
Yep.
And so we came together and we've written this book, Today's Learners, Tomorrow's Leaders. Inspire your students to succeed in school and beyond, because we both have this foundational belief that students like us can do great things when given the room and the opportunity and the tools to do so. And that's really what this book is about. And we are empowering educators with strategies and ideas and reminding them that they're not doing this alone. No matter what the state of education is, no matter what digital tools they have at their fingertips, no matter if they just have one Mac laptop in their classroom like I did, like you can still give students this incredible learning experience. So that is a lot about me, but I did want to bring in some personal things that I don't normally talk about, Rick. So that
No,
probably
I
went
think
over 2 minutes.
it went slightly over, but I think you gave a lot more information about yourself, which was good. And I think that's the thing. There was one thing that you mentioned with regards to your SWOT, that you saw a massive growth in them. What would you say was the root cause of that growth compared to the likes of in a
Typical
let's just
classroom.
call it a typical standard classroom?
Yeah, the reason for that is really because I had to have class in a school store. And a lot of people don't know that, but there wasn't a classroom for us. So the typical classroom for my students was never going to be the typical classroom when you put someone in a school store to teach. So I had to problem solve where were they going to sit? In the school store. I didn't have seating. There wasn't room for desks. And we didn't have the projector. We didn't have a whiteboard. We didn't have a smart board. So I had to reinvent what this classroom was going to look like in order to get my students to meet these learning goals and to solve problems for the district.
So you're essentially breaking the mold of a typical classroom to
Immediately.
cater to the ideas of what you're actually wanting to do.
Right. And because of that, they came in knowing that it wasn't going to be a typical classroom. So we talk about in the book, use certain language. We talk about changing up your classroom look and feel. All of that energy gave them this expectation that this classroom is not going to operate like all the other classrooms I've been in. And so they came in with that attitude, and I woke up every day and went to school with that attitude. So it was a mindset. Was it a forced mindset in the beginning? Yes, but we embraced it and we thought, okay, how do we reimagine what this is going to look like for all of us? And in that, we really did it together. I had no mold. I did not have a guide. Nobody was coaching me through this. I had seen a couple of presentations. Again, we credit these people in the book, but I was inspired and I thought, how can I take this and make this my own to solve a problem for my school district, and my students? And so that is how that class came about. The thing about it is there was so much room for them to grow because it was not traditional. There was so much room for them to create and be creators of content rather than consumers, which is what they were all used to. So now they were learning what it was like to actually put together a TikTok instead of just watching it. Well, putting together a TikTok is no easy task if you've tried to do it. And so I just started teaching them and they started teaching me. And that's really what it was about. Room to think, room to converse, room to debate, and sometimes room to give feedback, which did include tears in the classroom. I mean, I know adults sometimes cry when they're given feedback that isn't, crafted in a way that isn't a personal attack. But teaching high school students or middle school students or even elementary school students, I just feel like if it would start there, we'd be so much better off as adults.
It starts with the actual authentic approach to learning rather than it just being a set structure of everything we need to go through, what the curriculum is, everything else. We're actually going in with a more understanding of the individual and expressing their true emotions and feelings and opinions to what it is that you're learning. And I think that's the power that your class actually had, because you said it, that you were learning as they were learning. You were teaching
Yes.
each other essentially.
I had to
And
set my ego aside. I think that is, we do talk about this as well in our book. Chapter 9 is teaching beyond tradition. And it was very important for us to include many voices in this book. This book isn't about Rick and I. Rick and I are not
no,
setting out to become millionaires because of the book. We want the book to be
absolutely not.
beneficial. We want to help others with the book. We want this book to be for students and teachers and administrators and school board members and parents,
Yeah.
because it isn't just about professional learning, it's also about personal learning, right? And that scenario challenged my personal development so much. And that's really what it was about. My students were watching me relax into that instead of being stressed about it. Now, I'm not telling you I wasn't stressed. There were stressful moments, but I was embracing the challenges that kept coming up, and I was trying to teach them how to be resilient and flexible. And in turn, they literally changed my life. It was because of that that I discovered Wakelet's power and started advocating for Wakelet because I believed in it. Nobody was paying me to say that. I was watching it happen in my classroom, and then got my master's degree because of my students, and then got the opportunity to work at Wakelet with Rick because of my students. I mean, they made me better. And I will say this every day, but they made me way better than I ever made them.
Amazing. Well, a little bit of a touching moment for the first episode.
It's true. Well, I have a question for you, Rick.
Oh, go on then. What are you going to hit me with this time?
Book growth. I want to know, what did you expect from the process of writing a book that was true? What expectations did you have about writing a book that you thought, well, yeah, I knew this was going to be the case?
I was going to get very frustrated.
You
Very
expected to be
simple.
very...
I was expecting to be very frustrated because I do say this in the book, and I've said this numerous times in, I think, other podcast sessions, people. Because I'm dyslexic, I always pushed a narrative that I would never write a book. Because you give me
Never
a book
say
to
never.
read. I know, never say never. I know that. I know that now. My 10-year-old, 14-year-old self didn't, but
Yeah.
now I do. I'm a lot older than that now. But I was very much of, because I was slow at reading, I didn't think I was capable of actually writing a book at all. And given the opportunity to write a book, because of Tisha's experience and the things that I had learned along the way, I felt more confident than I'd ever had been. The only challenge I knew was, I'm actually going to write this thing, and there's going to be times where I'm going to get frustrated in how I'm trying to express myself, because that is one challenge that I definitely find, is I can go here, there, and everywhere when I'm trying to tell a story that I've not actually planned out.
Yeah.
So trying to write the book, I knew was going to be a very repetitive process of going through what it is that I'm trying to say. And I'm sure you had the same situation, Tish, when you were trying to get your parts written out in the way that was trying to express it in a meaningful, structured, and even being able to give a takeaway for the reader.
I think what you're trying to say here, Rick, is that our neurodivergence, we expected to be an issue because it had been when we were learners. And
Yes.
I think it's a fair assessment. I think you're right. Anybody who's neurodivergent, who knows that they are and have you been diagnosed, or you suspect that you are, we know that struggle.
Mm-hmm.
We know the struggle that you deal with on a daily basis. And I think the reason that I resisted writing this book for so long is because I knew it was going to challenge that ADHD in me. I knew it was going to challenge.
That's the thing. You didn't even know that you were ADHD
I
by this
didn't.
point. So you're essentially going in blind, really. It's like, I know I have this
Thing.
thing there that's going to
Yeah.
keep on like irritating me or
Yeah,
frustrating
it
me,
is. It's kind of like
and you have
having
no
a
clue how to actually accommodate for it.
right. I had no idea. I just knew that writing a book was going to be a lot of work, a lot of time, and I wasn't sure I was ready to commit. If you know anything about neurodivergent people, and this includes Rick and I
Yep.
both, we're gonna get really passionate about something. We'll just pretend, we'll just say that oh, Rick, you know what? I'm gonna get really, really good at kayaking. So I go out and I buy kayaks and I'm gonna go kayak for like every day for the next 3 months. And I get really, really great at kayaking. But then the fourth month, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of kayaking now. So I think I'm gonna take up a whole nother hobby and I'm gonna go all in. And that was my worry, is that I knew that this process would take much longer than any of the other hobbies.
I do have one thing though to say with that. I'm hoping that's not going to be the same kind of ideology that's going to happen to this podcast as well. We're not going to get
No,
into like July,
episode
August
4.
time, just as we're literally getting into the start of the next school year, and we're just like, you know what? Let's go and build a web application. I don't know, or let's learn
I
how
mean,
to ski.
I can't say that I won't do that, but what I can tell you is the thing I love the most is connecting with other people. And you and I, people are getting an insight look into what our conversations look like every single day that we were working on the book.
Yeah.
We were having these conversations, and sometimes they would go for 5 hours
Oh
because
yeah.
we would be debating. Rick would say, UDL, why? And I would be like, are you crazy? He would say, yes, but tell me why. So, I mean, you're getting an inside look to that. I think I didn't expect, though. I mean, it was a lot of editing. It was a lot of ideating. It was a lot of knowing what, as a neurodivergent, and especially with my brain, Rick knows this now, but I can see the entire picture in my brain and I can see the details. I could see the book. I could see the chapters. I could see the content. But taking all of that and putting it into a
Actual
literal
physical thing.
book is not easy. And it's
No.
not easy for me with something even simple. So I was, dare I say, fearful. I expected to be afraid every day. Some days I was more than others, but what was true, that it took a lot of work. And what was also true, though, and I think Rick and I were so thankful for this. What is also true is we had editors to help us. We had editors to double
Absolutely.
check. Was what we were writing making sense? Was the order in the right order? Did we need to change the order? Was it effective in the way that we were saying it, or was there a better way? And it caused us to learn the very thing that we were writing to you about. Every single word in this book, I will tell you, we were challenged with personally and professionally every single day. So we aren't writing about it, telling you, oh, we know all of it. We did it. Check. No, we're still doing it.
Yeah,
right?
we're still living every single chapter day by day on. And the thing is, we'll open up the book. I've already had this happen to me a number of times, including the first time I actually picked the book up, and I just flicked. I mean, I flicked to the first sentence where I said that I would never write a book. That was the first sentence I actually read when I got the physical copy. And then after that, anything with regards to feedback, open the book up and it goes straight to that. It's been a weird situation since the moment they've been delivered to us. But it's a continuous reminder of the lessons that we're providing to anyone that reads the book, but they're also lessons back to us every single time. And we're continuing to grow with that. And that's all of this correlates.
It does all
podcast.
correlate. I think, okay, well, I want to ask you this question and then we'll open the book and we'll tell everybody where to find the book.
Yes.
What was most surprising to you about writing the book?
I mean, I could easily just say the fact that we finished the book after 18 months. And I think that it's just the creative aspects of everything that came about. We were able to put together all these different ideas, how we were able to accommodate for each other through our neurodivergency, being able to sit on calls for, I mean, towards the end of it, we were on calls for 2-3 hours every weekday, as well as every weekend day, trying to get through it all. And it
Yeah.
was just, we achieved it. We were able to do it. And it proved to us that anything that we're going to set our minds to, even though, like Tish was saying, she'd pick up a hobby, she'd
Right.
do it for 3 months and then move on to the next thing. For us, this was very much of, we have a end goal, and I put that in air quotes because this isn't stopping. This is keeping moving. It's what spurred the momentum of the podcast. This is going to spur the momentum of something else. And I think that's what's been very surprising, is everything that's knocking on from it, because I've done numerous projects where it's like, oh, you finished that, right, now the next thing.
So
And
don't
the
you
next thing,
think
but you don't really
that's so
feel
interesting?
connected.
Because don't you think there is a disconnect in that? The idea that we're doing a project and check, 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 check. We're do. Just because we are doing a lot of things and checking them off doesn't mean that we're making progress.
No.
Right?
No, it really does not. It really doesn't, because you can be thinking that you're moving forward, but you could be stagnant, you could be going backwards, you could be going anywhere you want. And that's the thing, projects, especially with the book. I know both of us we ended up getting writer's block. Both
Yeah.
of us at the same
Oh,
time as well. It was just like,
yeah.
it would have been all right if I'd got writer's block, but you were able to keep motivating me to push through, or vice versa. But the fact that we both had it at the same time, it was not far from the end as well, was it? I think, if I remember,
Yeah,
we
we were so
we were definitely
close.
in the second
It's like running a
half of that.
marathon,
It
because we
was.
both actually ran half marathons. Rick and I
Yes.
have both done that.
Yep.
It is as if you are on mile 10 or
Mhm.
11 and you know that you're almost there, but your body wants to shut down.
Just
That's
wants to
exactly.
stop every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I think once we'd completed the book and we actually looked back on it, and this was while it was being reviewed, I think our editor was going through everything at this point. It was that moment of looking back and seeing, what the hell did we just actually do for the last 18 months?
Mm-hmm.
And reflecting on that. And as we've said, we're learning still to this day from what we've written. And that's allowed us to actually progress forward. And if you don't have that feedback or that reflection, you are going to be stagnant every time. And that's what
You're
happens
just
in the
spinning your
classroom.
wheels,
You are.
honestly. And that, I think that's how students feel. If they're not getting that immediate feedback, it's interesting that Rick even says that. This wasn't part of anything we were going to share. You will see probably some mention of it later, but we both helped a very large school district with a contest that they were doing for videos. Their students were creating videos and they were having a
Yep.
contest. And I had the high school videos. Rick had some elementary videos, and we had to go into each one of those with the rubric and give specific feedback to every one of those videos. Now, what I do know is not everybody gave feedback like we did. I spent lots of time last weekend doing this because I knew, as a student, I want to know what I did good. Tell me what I did good. Give me one thing that I did good and
It's
start with
important.
that. And then tell me the two things I need to improve on. What did you see? What this has done, this whole process has even helped, even when you're in a work environment. Like, I'm not sure that everybody has practiced enough to feel confident in giving feedback or receiving feedback. And I try to be very specific about what is great, what stands out to me, and then how could we make this better? And it's never just about the other person. It's about us. It's a partnership, right? That is really what I see feedback and reflection. It isn't something that's like a gotcha. It's like,
No.
we're doing this together as a partnership. You're signing up to help someone grow, but they're also helping you grow. So it's twofold. Okay, well, here is what I want to tell you is surprising about the book for me, okay?
Yes, go on.
The surprising part for me, and it was something that I knew that we wanted to do, like we had discussed this, but I told, like Rick and I talked about it. We didn't want this book to just be about the Tisha. It's not the Tisha and Rick show. Like you're getting this
Is it
episode.
not? Is it not? I thought that's
No,
where we're going. Have we gone for the other name?
stop.
Oh, okay.
So it was important that we give other voices a platform, just like we're doing with you. We want to hear from you. We want your comments. We want you to tell us what ideas sparked as you were listening. What questions do you have? What things do you want to challenge us with? What do you want to push back on? Like, what do you want to talk about? Essentially, what surprised me was the quality of content that we got from all of the people who contributed to the book. That was what surprised me. I did not expect it to be as powerful as it was. And I'm going to read a couple of things. So I just want to highlight that since we have the platform.
Are you about to give us some book teasers right
Yes,
now?
book teasers are happening now. I know. This is in chapter 4, student entrepreneurship. And what I want to say about entrepreneurship skills, we are all doing them. Even as a classroom teacher, I was using entrepreneurship skills in my classroom. They just maybe weren't labeled as that, right? But this particular section is called Celebrating Success. And I think that often we forget that celebrating success is part of the growth. If we as adults, teachers, administrators, CEOs, COOs, leaders, if we feel like celebrating success is just a tick box, it is going to affect our students, our learners, our organization in a negative way. And so this is all about celebrating success, stopping to celebrate success, and believing and knowing and seeing that it is critical, not just to our classrooms, but to our organizations and our teams. Celebrating students individually or collectively impacts our students far deeper than educators might anticipate. So Honora shares this thought with us. When my achievements are recognized, I feel motivated to continue what I'm doing and even work harder. When teachers or managers verbally praise me, it feels much more genuine than just a printed certificate or being called out publicly in front of my peers. So Honora's essentially saying that 30 seconds of verbal feedback and praise is way more powerful than really anything else. Let's see. As Rick said, I'll just flip here. I'm going to give another teaser. We had someone who was an adult employer talk to us in chapter 5, which is promoting problem solving. I'm not going to read you the whole quote because you need to go grab the book. I will tell you it's on page 75 if you want to look for it, which is interesting.
I can just see floods of people going to the SD bookstore in June now.
Page
just that
75.
one page just to read it.
Rick, what's interesting is this is how the quote starts. 75% on page 75. 75%.
I need to check this myself, actually. While you read it, I'm going to check.
So it's on page 75. 75% of the new employees I hire have no clear knowledge of true work ethic, drive, or how to be a team player, understanding the consequences of real life actions. He goes on to talk about his experience and how it's beneficial to teach students those skills early on. We also hear from Douglas, another student perspective. And then we have teachers in the last chapter, but we'll highlight those at a different point. You'll hear from someone soon who is part of the book as well. Yep. We are going to do episodes with those particular people. Mm-hmm. But that is what surprised me. Their content, their ideas, their perspectives on things. Rick,
it's all unique.
It's so unique.
That's a great thing.
And we've gone on for talking for like 45 minutes, which is actually very surprising.
A 15-minute episode.
Well,
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Here's what I want. Here's the call to action. Okay, this is the call to action. Education is changing.
Yep.
Education is changing.
It's always changing.
It was already changing. And it's changing a lot lately. And if you're not up to speed on that, get up to speed on that. And what I want to know is I want you to comment on this episode, comment on our social media posts, any of the YouTube episodes, comment and let us know how you specifically can be part of the solution, where you are now with what you know now. How can you be part of the solution in the change in education? And how can you start discussions that are impactful and create change? How can you empower your students to advocate for themselves and also be part of the solution? That is your call to action. And we will continue talking about that. Like I said, we have more episodes with more content. So, Rick, it's time for Retro Rewind. Now, I will ask you these questions, but before I get to the questions, I want to know what you have around your desk that would be considered the theme of play. Like play, create.
You had to mention that, didn't you? Because I'll just grab one of them. There's a load on my desk right now because I'm in sort out mode.
Okay.
But I'm just going to hold it up to the camera. I'm going to describe it to the audience. That's very blurred, but basically Pokemon cards. This obviously back in I think it was like 2000s. Obviously Pokemon cards were very big, and about 18 months ago I got back into it. And am I addicted? Maybe you could say that. I love the artwork that goes onto them. I love learning. I play Pokemon Go. If you're watching on YouTube or I know Spotify, Pokemon cards on my left. And yeah, I like to collect things. I enjoy it. I love opening packs. It gives me a buzz. And I have adult money to spend on Pokemon cards. So that's where it's all going.
I love Pokemon.
It is fun.
We play Pokemon together.
We do.
I haven't played in a while, but I do.
Haven't.
But I do have it, and I do use it. So, what you can't see behind me for my desk is that I have a Rubik's Cube back there. I keep Play-Doh on hand very regularly. I always have some sort of fidget to play with, so something that is like a puzzle. I do have these puzzles here.
But those puzzles are very much for your like ADHD focus.
Well, this puzzle isn't really an ADHD. This is Canoodle, and I love Canoodle. It is a problem-solving puzzle, and I love it so much. I could sit here and play it. So if you aren't familiar with it, it's like a caboodle of brain-testing puzzles. So again, it keeps my brain busy. But yes. And then I have these.
They look like those McDonald's Minecraft things.
They are, and I have two of them. I did not know that they were going to be like an item to have until just now when I looked it up. But there's all of these eBay listings, and they're being sold now on eBay.
I'm not surprised.
Some of them for $24. I did not pay $24 for these.
You
but
got it from a Happy Meal, I'm assuming.
Yes, I got it from a Happy Meal. I have Zombie Hamburglar right here. And then I have Birdie Wings. I did not get the soda potion or the Grimace egg. I didn't get the Fry helmet or the Big Mac crystal, but I'm okay with that because I really like Birdie Wings. And I really like Zombie Hamburglar. I also have a Lego a Disney castle Lego thing that I have. So
ooh, yes, I do enjoy Lego. I got very much back into that when Lego Movie came out.
Yeah,
and got the spaceship.
Okay, so this is a quick fire. So you can't can't take long. It has to be like one or 2 seconds. We're going to end up being
for another hour here.
I know. We're going to be done soon.
Okay,
ready?
Okay.
Favorite card game or board game? I think you've already answered this, but go ahead.
Mousetrap.
Your anthem song from the 80s or the 90s?
Ooh, is it Cold Shot Through the Heart by Bon Jovi?
Okay. Wow, that's aggressive. Okay. Your anthem song, huh?
Yeah, but it just starts off so powerful. I'm
okay with it.
Getting the name of the song wrong, but I can't remember.
First video game to ever play.
Ridge Racer, PlayStation 1, I think.
What was your favorite piece of clothing from the 80s or 90s?
A t-shirt.
With what
I
on
was
it?
not good. I was not good with actual 80s, 90s fashion.
Okay, that's okay. What did it have on it?
I honestly can't remember. It was just a t-shirt. I mean, I know I went through a phase during the like noughties of wearing a like white t-shirt with a coloured shirt over the top.
Yeah.
I did own a leather jacket actually during the
That's a good
90s, I
one.
think. Yeah, that's my kind of memory of
Okay. Do you
it.
want to
What
ask
about
me
yours?
mine?
Yeah. Let's go with first video game first.
The very first video game that I ever played was on the Atari. It was Pong.
Oh, you're going real retro. Okay, okay. Let's go for the song 80s or 90s anthem.
Well, I have to. The first one would obviously be Don't Stop Believing because I love that song and I
It
am a
is a
small
good
town
one.
girl, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then but my real anthem song is The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. Really love that
Okay.
song. At
By
regular
Jimmy Eat
tempo
World.
or slow tempo, depends on the mood you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to the board game or card game
I
of your
really
choice.
loved Monopoly, but nobody would ever play it with me until the very end, so I always felt very sad. I also like Trivial Pursuit, but it has to be specifically the Disney version.
Yeah, I was going to say I've played Trivial Pursuit. I played a very old version of Trivial Pursuit fairly recently as well, and some of the questions I hadn't got a
Yeah.
clue. I mean, they had one of them was like a football player's height. I was like, I didn't even watch him. And lastly, vintage piece or piece of clothing that you wore during the 80s or 90s. What was your favorite? Was it a t-shirt like mine?
I did have one t-shirt when I was younger that I loved, and this is a neurodivergent trait. I loved it because of how soft it was, and I also loved it because it had strawberry shortcake on it. And since I don't have it anymore, I've been leaning more towards perfumes that smell like strawberries and obviously wearing more pink. So that's one of them. But I also really, really miss that I didn't keep my polo shirts. I had these incredibly awesome polo shirts, and for some reason I didn't think that I needed them. And now I wish I had them. So they look like this and they had the polo label on it, right? So
Yeah.
anyway. Well, Rick, thanks for joining me for this podcast.
First episode done, I'm assuming, when you're saying thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was good. It was first one, and I hope that people have found it not too crazy, found it
Fun and
fun
playful.
and engaging to start off with. The next episodes will be a lot more structured. Obviously, we want to be bringing people on to talk about different topics, different ideas,
Yeah.
different insights. So,
And if you want to be a guest on this podcast and you feel like you have something valuable to share, please reach out to us. We'll put all of our contact information in the show notes. We'll also put all of our own personal social links in the show notes as well so that you can follow us. Thank you for being a part of this episode. Please continue the conversation with us. Please comment, join us online, subscribe, and be ready for our next topic.
we'd love to connect with you on X, Instagram, and TikTok. All links, as Tisha's mentioned, are in the show notes. All links and show notes will be available in the episode description. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and playing.
Bye.
Bye.